stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Rachel Zegler just caught wind of Disney's second attempt at rebooting Snow White, and let's just say she's fuming. After enduring months of brutal backlash, internet firestorms, and a staggering $115 million box office faceplant, you'd think Disney would finally play it safe. But nope, they threw gasoline on the fire. And Rachel, she's not holding back. She's dropping hints, throwing heat, and unleashing the kind of behind-the-scenes chaos that could take this whole story to another level. So how did we get to this boiling point? Let's roll the clock back to October 2016. That's when Disney, riding high on the live-action wave, decided it was time to reimagine Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. People were instantly torn. It was either a genius move or a disaster waiting to happen. Aaron Creesa Wilson was tapped to pen the script, and Disney added musical firepower with Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, the dream team behind La La Land and The Greatest Showman. With that kind of star-studded lineup, fans were expecting magic. After all, what could possibly go wrong with jazz hands, sparkle, and singing woodland creatures? Enter May 2019. Mark Webb signs on as director. Known for swinging Spider-Man across Manhattan, fans wondered if he could really pull off royal drama, evil queens, and enchanted apples. But the project marched on, and at first, things actually looked promising. Then June 2021 hit, and boom! Twitter erupted when Disney revealed Rachel Zegler as the new Snow White. The West Side Story standout was stepping into one of the most iconic fairy tale roles in cinematic history. Then in November, things got even spicier. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman herself, was confirmed to play the evil queen. And let's be real, who doesn't want to see Gal smirking in a floor-length cloak, plotting sabotage via mirror? Even she admitted she couldn't wait to go full villain. This wasn't your grandma's Snow White, it was a new era. By January 2022, the script took another sharp turn. The classic Prince Charming? Scrapped. Instead, Disney introduced a new character, a Robin Hood-esque figure played by Andrew Burnap. Clearly, Disney was rewriting the rules, leaning hard into a modern twist. But then March 2022 brought literal fire. No, really, a blaze broke out on set. While no one was injured, the damage caused serious delays. Still, the team powered through filming all the way to July 2022, crafting elaborate sets and leaning heavy on green screen magic. And just when they thought they had wrapped everything up, bam! Test screenings came in cold. Disney, clearly panicked, scheduled extensive shoots for summer 2024. But all of that was just the beginning. The real storm was waiting in the wings. Peter Dinklage, beloved for his role in Game of Thrones, publicly slammed the idea of revisiting the Seven Dwarfs, calling it a backward step. Disney scrambled and tried to patch it up. They rebranded the dwarfs as magical creatures and pumped in a ton of CGI. Problem solved? Not quite. Members of the dwarfism community called it a missed opportunity for authentic representation. But the lightning rod in all of this? Rachel Zegler? The moment Disney announced her casting, the internet exploded. Some celebrated the long-overdue diversity, others clung to nostalgia, criticizing the departure from the pale-skinned, raven-haired classic image of Snow White. Suddenly, what should have been a fairy tale became a battlefield of opinions. Snow White was trending, and not in a good way. But Rachel didn't retreat. In fact, she pushed forward, boldly defending her place in the role. She highlighted the significance of Snow White in Latin cultures and expressed her excitement to bring a new voice to a timeless character. Love her or loathe her, everyone was paying attention. Then came the real bombshells. In a 2022 interview, Rachel called the original 1937 version of Snow White extremely dated, and you could practically hear Disney purists clutching their pearls. But she wasn't done. She called the prince character weird and boldly declared that her version of Snow White wasn't waiting around to be saved by a man. This new Snow White had a different dream: leadership, not love. Some fans hailed it as modern, powerful, and exactly what the character needed. Others were outraged, calling it disrespectful to the original. The divide was growing. And just when it couldn't get any more chaotic, August 2024 arrived. Disney finally dropped the teaser trailer. Some viewers were sobbing over the hyper-realistic CGI deer. Others were questioning the dwarf-shaped holes in the cast. But Rachel stole the spotlight once again, this time with a two-word post: Free Palestine. That one post detonated a whole new level of controversy. While Rachel was voicing support for Palestine, her co-star Gal Gadot, who had publicly expressed her pro-Israel stance, stood on the opposite side of the political spectrum. Suddenly, the cast was split down the middle and social media turned into a full-blown war zone. Boycotts were threatened. Comment sections became battlegrounds. Fans dissected every interview and promo still for tension, awkward glances, or subtle shade. And then, things really took a nosedive. Someone unearthed Rachel's old tweets, ones where she criticized Donald Trump and roasted his supporters. The internet lost it. Another storm of backlash erupted, people canceling, defending, debating, and the whole situation became a digital wildfire. By November 2024, Rachel issued a public apology. She insisted her intentions were never to harm, only to advocate for peace. But the damage? Already done, and behind the scenes, things were reportedly tense. Word leaked that Rachel and Gal weren't even speaking. It wasn't just politics pulling them apart. Rumors swirled about on-set tension, with some insiders claiming Disney had to increase security for Gal after receiving threats. Eventually, the studio gave up trying to present a united front. They began scheduling separate press appearances for the two stars. Not a single shared interview, not even one forced giggle on a talk show couch. And in Hollywood, that speaks volumes. Picture this, Disney's PR team in a frenzy, cutting trailers frame by frame, scrambling to rewrite headlines, and hiring a full-time social media babysitter just to contain the fallout. This reboot was supposed to be a fairy tale revival, but now, it's looking more like a public relations horror story. Rachel Zegler's every move was under a microscope, and Disney's promotional rollout for Snow White? Let's just say it felt more like a damage control operation than a celebration. From their stiff joint appearances to interviews that sounded like carefully rehearsed court statements, to the red carpet moments dripping with tension, nothing about this film's launch felt organic. Then came March 21st, 2025, the day Snow White officially hit theaters in the US and Canada. But instead of a fairy tale debut, what we got was a box office reality check. The film barely scraped in $42.2 million domestically during opening weekend, already trailing behind the projected $45 to $55 million mark, and things didn't exactly get better across the pond. International markets added just $45.1 million, bringing the global opening total to a not-so-magical $87.3 million now. For some hard-hitting context, this movie reportedly cost between $240 and $270 million to produce. That's not even counting the mountain of cash Disney dropped on marketing. Fast forward to early April and the numbers were still grim. $71, $4 million from US theaters, and $75.8 million from international ones. That's a worldwide total of $147.2 million, which, if you do the math, means Disney is staring down a jaw-dropping $115 million loss. So what exactly went off the rails? Well, post-release, Rachel Zegler stepped into the spotlight like a seasoned vet. Critics may not have been kind, but Rachel stood firm. She defended the film's vision, praising its effort to reimagine the classic tale. Admirable? Absolutely. But depending on who you ask, that fresh perspective felt less like a reimagining and more like a complete character rewrite. This wasn't just a glow-up, it was a personality transplant. And Gal Gadot, she played it classy. But let's be real. After donning a crown and surviving poisoned apples, watching your movie flop has to sting. Now on to the reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, a lukewarm 42% from 215 critic reviews averaging just 5.2 out of 10. The general consensus? Zegler shined, but the movie had no idea what it wanted to be, and honestly, when your fairy tale veers between a musical, a feminist think piece, and a CGI fever dream, you've lost the plot. Metacritic wasn't any kinder, a flat 50/100, a true mixed bag. And while CinemaScore offered a B+, not awful, but certainly not the roaring applause Disney was counting on, it wasn't enough to shift the narrative. Audiences generally liked Rachel, but the writing, the visuals, the radical story changes, not so much. Many fans left the theater confused, wondering why Snow White was starting a revolution instead of singing to woodland critters. And then came the aftershock, the ripple effect that Disney probably didn't see coming. The box office disaster started spilling over into other projects. One of the first casualties, the live-action Tangled remake. Director Michael Gracey was locked in. Writer Jennifer Caton Robinson was deep into concept mode.